getting bad.
It's been really hard. I'm on disability, so it's been really hard for us.
West Virginia is leaping into action to help their neighbors after SNAP benefits were cut over the weekend due to the government shutdown, leaving thousands searching for ways to feed their families. And yesterday, the Trump administration says it'll provide partial funding for SNAP.
This comes after 2 federal judges ruled last week that the administration must tap into emergency funds to keep the food aid program running. The Department of Agriculture had planned to pause payments this month, saying it couldn't keep funding SNAP during the government shutdown. The government says it'll use a $4.65 billion contingency fund to cover November benefit payments. Officials say that it's enough to cover about half of normal benefits for households.
While the Trump administration has agreed to release partial funding for SNAP for the month of November, we have no word on when those funds will be released. And after that, it'll take an estimated 4 to 7 days to recharge debit card use by 144,000 West Virginia SNAP families. SNAP provides nearly $50 million a month to West Virginia.
And Governor Patrick Morrisey has announced a total of $8.6 million of state funds being sent to state food banks to cover the initial impact of SNAP funds running out at the beginning of the month, despite assurance from West Virginia's senior Senator Shelley Moore Capito that those state funds would be reimbursed. The governor says the Trump administration says it won't be reimbursed.
The West Virginia National Guard has been called out to help food banks distribute food through hundreds of food pantries. Governor Patrick Morrisey asked people to donate to 2 of the state's major food banks, and the state would match up to $13 million. Well, in West Virginia, thousands of SNAP recipients could see new requirements. Changes impact able-bodied adults without dependents, expanding the age range from 18 to 64 and tightening exemptions for veterans, the homeless, and former fostered youth. While adults caring for teens 14 and older will now need to meet work requirements, while a new exemption protects certain Native American recipients. State officials say roughly 36,000 SNAP recipients could be affected and encourage anyone with questions to call that number right there on your screen.
Well, I'm joined here in the studio by West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey. Governor, thanks for coming in this morning.
It's good to be with you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And taking a look at your administration's efforts here, you were urging West Virginians to donate to 2 of the state's biggest food banks, and your administration says that you will match $13 million. What went into that decision?
Well, a couple things. First of all, we looked early to see what the feasibility was of being able to put state monies just on the card, and our vendor and the vendor that covers many other states couldn't do it. So this was the best option to be able to get resources immediately out to people and to prevent our citizens from getting hungry. So what we did is we said we're going to have, at least initially, up to $14+ million available, and that we thought, along with other help, would cover at least the first couple weeks, which would buy us some time, because you don't know the date that the government's going to reopen. You don't know, in fact, given the information yesterday, exactly when the cards are going to be online. So what we've done to date is we put $8.6 million in, and then we're prepared to continue to do it based on need. I've activated the Guard. We have over 200 people out fanning out around West Virginia, involved in management, logistics, coordination, ensuring that no one goes hungry. And then separately, though, we have asked people to step up. During times of need and big challenges, West Virginians take care of each other. And so we've asked people if they consider donating charitably, not mandatory, that would be a big help. And people have stepped up. We've been able to see a lot of people start to donate and to help their fellow West Virginians. So we're on top of it. We're managing this every single day in West Virginia to make sure no one goes hungry. And as we need more resources, we'll be able to get more resources and do this the right way.
West Virginians certainly are generous. And given that many, though, are struggling, why make the decision to match instead of just forthright giving that $13 million?
Well, we've actually said we're going to make that money available, so that money be available. But I'm also trying to not only ensure that the state acts in a responsible way. When federal government is all messed up and it's dysfunctional, it's up to the state and the governors to solve problems. That's what we did. So people can count on that money, and there will not be people that go hungry, period, full stop. But it's also important during difficult times that we get communities stepping up and helping each other. And given that we have to do this through food banks and food pantries and activate the Guard. We think it helps so much to have that volunteer spirit, whether it's contributing or helping with food or helping your neighbor access the 211 number to call in. That makes a big difference. So we're really happy with the results so far, and we're going to continue to help. We're not going to let people go hungry, but we ask everyone, step up and help your fellow West Virginian, and I think West Virginia will be in a better place because of how we've handled the situation than other states.
Do you know how much has been raised so far from people stepping up and donating?
We're going to get a number on that a little bit later, but I know that we're clearly over the 300,000 mark for the first couple days, which I thought was good, but that was in the early phases. And so we'll get the exact number and we'll publicize it, but we thought that was positive.
How long do you think it'll take to get to that 13 million? And at one point, do you step in and provide that money?
Well, as we indicated, if we need resources, we're going to be able to address it, either what we can do directly, or if I have to call the legislature back, I will do that. So I want to emphasize again, a lot of people have been trying to distract with this. West Virginians will not go hungry, not on my watch, and we're going to make sure the Guard and all the resources are available. But I'm also asking, for example, every time we raise $1.5 million, it makes a difference because that's an extra day in terms of the coverage. And so we feel good now knowing that this is going to come to an end fairly soon, but I'm actually continuing to push to make sure that in the gap period, in terms of when the card gets turned on and when it's available, that no one's left out.
You've mentioned a few times how you feel this is going to be coming to an end soon. What is the current pulse in Washington that you're feeling right now as far as possibly a bipartisan solution, given there's been a lot of finger pointing to this point? What are you hearing?
Well, look, I've been a believer that what's going to happen is after the elections today in New Jersey and Virginia, the Democrats are going to come to the table. This was political. It was a Schumer shutdown. It's really terribly unfortunate that we've seen that, but the elections will be done today, and we're already hearing about potential discussions to potentially get this done later on in the week. I know that President Trump has indicated that he's going to try to put resources into SNAP, at least some resources. That's going to make a big difference. So I think all this confirms the strategy that we've had in West Virginia to forward a lot of the resources, 8.6 million, literally before this started, so everyone was ready. We were on top of this before a lot of others, and we'll continue in the next few days to make sure that resources are available when they're needed.
You mentioned that the state's vendor, FIS, just said, we can't be providing funds through EBT. What was their reasoning for that?
Look, West Virginia and many other states have been pressing them. I've directed my team to really get to the bottom of it, but there were some problems they had with their coding to ensure the ability to deliver that in an effective way, in a way that's going to go toward the food as well, because they had these coding systems that were really programmed for the federal monies that were coming in. So this was different to have the kind of security system and to be able to do this the right way. So look, we're continuing to press them. I know that last week there was a call with many states and this vendor, and people are putting a lot of pressure on them to do it.
And looking forward at these new changes to SNAP now, certain people, the age, working requirement age was raised to 65. Some exemptions now no longer available for certain people. How do you see this impacting West Virginians? Because this will be impacting about 36,000 people right now.
Look, I think as a general matter, I mean, we can separate this. There's the piece with respect to the federal shutdown and what the state's done to step up, and that's been an unmitigated success because we're out in front of it. Separately, though, we've really been very supportive of initiatives to help more people get to work, and I think that's really positive. I think whether you're talking about Medicaid, you're talking about SNAP, you're talking about other public programs, folks want people to step up and work maybe 20 hours a week for a variety of different jobs. That should be encouraged. And I think that we want to make sure in a state which has the lowest workforce participation rate in America, we have to get more people to work. So this is part of the new law. We're going to make sure we comply with it. But we want to make sure we send a message. We're very compassionate. We're going to make sure people don't get hungry. But if you're able-bodied, you should be working too. We think that's important. And you're going to continue to see a lot of initiatives to help West Virginians work. I think most West Virginians want to work. We just have to make sure we're providing those opportunities to them.
Well, as I'm sure you know, with SNAP, there is a work requirement. You know, it's not like, people are just taking the money without working. So what workaround are you referring to as people taking advantage of the system?
Well, what I said specifically is that we want to make sure that more people working. That's actually what's going to happen here. So let's take, for example, veterans. I talked to a lot of veterans about this, and this was an exemption put in. I think veterans want to work, so they're not looking for a lot of what people are identifying right now. They want to make sure they're contributing to help people in need. So that exemption changes, but I've had nothing but positive remarks from veterans who think it's a great thing. And so there are other opportunities for people who will go and they will work a little bit longer in their careers, but this is positive. People want to contribute. We have to continue to expand the base of people working in our state.
Someone working really hard right now, National Guard members, not only deployed to D.C., also now being used in food pantries.
Yeah.
Do you feel that there's enough National Guard members to meet the demand right now?
Yeah, we have over 200 people who are hard at work, and General Seward is doing a terrific job, and you could see the pictures from across West Virginia. People love our National Guard. They're incredibly competent, and so once again, we decided early on to activate our Guard. I don't know how many states across the country are doing that, but they're so good at the logistics and the management of this, and I think they've stepped up to ensure that there's full coordination between the food banks and the food pantries, and also to ensure that the information from the 211 number is actually being generated, sent through, so that no one's left in need.
We're expecting a court ruling next week on Monday on whether the Guard is lawfully working in D.C. Depending on that ruling, do you see if it's ruled that they should not be there, they would come back and double this effort for food pantries, or where do you see that working?
We have plenty of resources to deal with the food issue. That's the point. We activated the Guard, and we developed estimates to be able to do and put the number of people on the ground. So that has nothing to do with the case. So that's being handled because I put the needs of West Virginia first. Now, historically, National Guards have been called to go to different parts of the country. So there's nothing odd about this. I believe the long-term arc of this case, we're going to win. But look, people file cases. They try to make political statements. That's what's happening here. I'm working with the Trump administration to address some of the issues that are coming up. I think the president is right to try to clean up our streets. The president is right to try to clean up our nation's capital and make it stronger and better. And so that's why we're working closely with them. It's a big plus for our state, and I think it's going to be very helpful going forward.
And for those at home watching today that maybe are kind of nervously waiting to see what happens with SNAP, what would you like to tell them as their governor?
Well, what I would say is that despite the dysfunction in Washington, West Virginia, and your governor and your legislature, people are stepping up. Part of what allowed us to do what we did, to get out in front proactively, we put the money way out in front as people needed it. So all these people saying just send these massive checks, no, we're doing it the right way. So we're providing money well in advance of the need. And we did that because we also talked to the legislature, and we thought that we would start first by using our contingency fund and elevate. That's the first $14 million. So people should have confidence that we're out in front of this, and that if needed, we'll call the legislature. So the reaction's been very, very positive.
All right, well, Governor, thank you so much for coming in today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
We do want to talk about a food drive that we have here at our station.
Yeah.
It's something we've been participating in every year. And this is here first. If you'd like to scan these QR codes, this is what you've been mentioning, Governor, about helping these two food banks here, Mountaineer Food Bank and also Facing Hunger Food Bank. And you can scan those QR codes and find ways to donate. And we're also every year trying to raise money for folks in our area. This year, especially poignant. Our Feeding Families Food Drive, presented by Appalachian Power, begins this coming Monday and will run through November 21st. So you can join WCHS and Fox 11 as we team up with Union Mission to collect food donations and support families who are really struggling to put food on their tables. You can drop them off here at our station, non-perishable food items, to 1301 Piedmont Road in Charleston, and also to the Union Mission. And to kick off our food drive, we'll be teaming up with Marco's Pizza on Monday, November 10th. You can bring 12 canned items to any of the 7 Marco's locations listed there on your screen. And if you do that, you'll receive a free large 1-topping pizza. We'll be right back here on our Appalachia.
Yeah.
Love slots? The DraftKings Casino app's got you covered. They got tons of slots to choose from, like Cash Eruption, Cleopatra, plus new ones exclusive to DraftKings. All these options, I feel like a slot machine.